colleagues, good morning. Yeah, I study here, to continue with the story on breastfeeding. But at the same time, after Prof has really brought in the statistics and the way we like, saying we are the best, yeah? So tutawachwa hapo tukisema we are the best, but we are the best, yes, in guidelines, but we need now to be best in implementation of those guidelines. It is actually true some countries come and take our guidelines as they are, and they go and just implement the way they are in Africa. And they have seen, really great improvement. So I'm going to take you through the breast milk substitute. We call it Regulation and Control Act of 2012. By a show of hands, how many know about this act? Yeah, about half of the, yeah. And it actually follows what Dr. Makeba presented in terms of the code, because once the code was enacted, passed in the World Health Assembly, member states were called to enact legislation in their respective countries. And you can see from 1980 to 2012, so it also took us quite some time to enact the registration for marketing of a breast milk substitute. But before I start, I cannot start without recognizing Professor Duarte. Professor Ruth Duarte is one of the champions in terms of the legislative process. I found her there when I joined the ministry in 2018. And she's also the vice chairman of the National Committee on Infant and Young Child Feeding, which advises our cabinet secretary. And it is a statutory committee established in the basis of that act. So asante sana, Professor, for walking the journey. But it's good first to look at why are we talking about this act and protecting, promoting, supporting breastfeeding. For those who were able to attend yesterday's session, we know that optimal infant and young child nutrition is crucial for healthy growth and development. And as a country, we are losing 374 Kenya shillings billion, or 7% of our gross domestic product due to child undernutrition. And when you trace where that undernutrition is coming from, it starts from breastfeeding, because that's the golden nutrition in terms of start of life. And of course, we know breastfeeding is wholesome, provide all the ideal nutrition. But we also know that proper infant nutrition is associated with lower risk of infectious diseases, chronic conditions, and more importantly, optimal cognitive development. Yeah, because we know children who are undernourished, who are not well breastfed, in terms of IQ, they are not as per the fully breastfed children. But as a country, we are following guidelines from WHO and UNICEF. I know I'm teaching the converted. We know the three early initiation within 1 hour birth, which we saw we are at 60% exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life, introduction of nutritionally adequate complementary feed with continued breastfeeding. And that's where now, a pediatrician being also the first contact of these babies, that's where we require your support. When you look at this slide, I will not tackle the statistic for early initiation, exclusive breastfeeding. Prof had alluded to it. But I want to touch on the minimum acceptable diet. And this is comparing our 2014 statistic and 2022. Those are the 2 points for the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey. So you can see for the minimum acceptable diet, which touches on the complementary feeding, we are 31% of the children are consuming minimum acceptable diet. So a whole 69% are eating or consuming suboptimal diet. What does that mean? That they are at more risk of malnutrition. And it is important for all health workers who get into contact with the mothers and the children that the issue of optimal complementary feeding should be a pet subject to discuss with the mothers, because that's the only way we are going to help our mothers. Looking at the far right, which also was covered under the Kenya Demographic Survey, you can see 49% of our children are consuming sweet beverages. What does that mean? We are putting them at risk of overweight and obesity. Yeah? Another complication. Also, 26% are consuming unhealthy food. Foods high in calorie, rich in, high in sugar, high in salt. And of course, we know what that means to the risk of non-communicable diseases. The last one is on bottle feeding. You can see from 2014, we had 22% of our children being fed from the bottle. Now we are not doing well because that one is rising, and we know what bottle feeding does. So it means that either we need to accelerate our messaging in terms of empowering the mothers on infant and young child feeding practices so that we can be able to improve our statistics. So what is the connection of the breast milk substitute regulation and all what we are talking about? I know Makeba had mentioned, when the code was enacted, it was because it was seen inappropriate and aggressive marketing of breast milk substitute was undermining breastfeeding. And we all know, we have worked with a breast milk substitute manufacturer or distributor, and we know how aggressive they are. Not as aggressive as we are health worker promoting breastfeeding. And that's why, especially in Africa, we need to protect because we know majority of the household can only afford breast milk. They will not afford the infant formula. We need to really jealously guard that. We also found that mothers make the best decision about feeding through accessing information free from commercial influence. And they also need to have support structure and mechanism. And don't forget that breast milk is actually a human right. It's a human right issue. Just the way we talk about food, access, right to food, this is the food to that infant. So it's a human right issue. It's also enshrined in our constitution. Yeah, Article 53 1C, that every child is guaranteed to get what? Basic nutrition. Basic nutrition for children who are under 2 years, breast milk is one of them. Now, that is our Breast Milk Substitute Act, which I said we enacted in 2012. It was a really, lengthy process. And it provides for appropriate marketing and distribution of breast milk substitute, safe and adequate nutrition for infants through promotion of breastfeeding. Mark that, promotion of breastfeeding and proper use of breast milk substitute where necessary. I know, like the time we were doing the regulations in 2020, 2021, there was the issue that, the government is prohibiting breast milk substitute. Far from that. We are only regulating the marketing and distribution. So where a child or an infant require breast milk substitute, they are not denied, but it's done as per the Act. So it sets guidelines on marketing, labeling, distribution of the product under that scope. And I wanted us now to look at the products that are under that scope. It is also this, for those who will be able to access the Act is available in the Kenya Law Reports website. You can just Google and get it. And these are the products that are regulated. You can see any food or drink that's designed for infant, marketed, or otherwise represented to be a partial or total replacement of breast milk, whether or not it is suitable for that purpose. Feeding bottles. I know in 2021, we had a symposium, and one of the health workers was misquoted as saying, Kenya, we have prohibited the feeding bottles. And it brought a lot of havoc. No, we only regulate. Infant formula, teat, breast milk fortifiers, pacifier, cup with spout, and MacJ, any other product that the cabinet secretary may, by notice of gazette, declare it as designated product. So these are the provisions under that act. I just wanted to highlight a few. You can see section 1 is what the establishment of the National Committee on Infant and Young Child Feeding, which I said Professor is our chair. Kenya Paediatric Association is represented by Dr. Brian Maugo, and other statutory bodies are also represented there. It also regulates, apart from prohibiting advertisement and promotion, it also regulates the donation. Because we found that donation, many manufacturers will use that loophole to use, to donate. You think it's in goodwill, but actually what they are doing is creating a market or even dumping products that are almost expiring. It also prohibits health workers accepting from BMS manufacturer and distributor gift. Please mark here, financial assistance, even the doctor's coats that are branded BMS, manufacturer, scholarship, fellowship, research grant, study tour, funding for meeting and conferences, seminar, and as a health worker, you are prohibited. 2 years ago, we had a really hawk, as we were trying to pass the regulation, because that's the time the manufacturer were really pushing on association bodies, so we could see poster, this one with a certain manufacturer, they are having a CME, and we are sort of chasing them, so that we are able to enforce the law. And of course, displaying is also prohibited, and demonstrating the use of the product to mothers of members of their family, unless in such special cases as need be as prescribed by the cabinet secretary. So it continues, including the information materials touching on infant and young child feeding. So in case one wants to have those materials, they have to be approved by the committee, just to make sure that they are not violating the act. And also there's also provision for penalties. Anybody violating that and you are convicted, the fine is 1 million shillings, or a term of imprisonment not exceeding 3 years, or both. And also it gives the cabinet secretary powers to make regulations. So these are some of the examples of violations that we have been reported over time. You can see the picture on the top right. What are you seeing? There's a package. There's a complementary feeding food. There's court immersion, and there's baby soap. Yeah. So that is prohibited because that's also cross promotion. And the Act also regulates complementary feeding products. Below that is a poster found it was in a shop. It's advertising the infant formula, and that's also a violation. So what do? We normally request even members of public health workers to report such violation so that the necessary action can be taken. The other one I mentioned is about the CMEs. Yeah? So please, association, take note of that. A classical one was an establishment of a lactation station in a national referral hospital that was funded by an infant formula. And we had to move with speed so that it is brought to action. So you are our eyes, because this act is ours, it's not just for the ministry, so you can also be able to report violation, but more so, also make sure that you are there to what the provisions are. Quickly, these are the regulations that were passed in 2021 and came to effect on 30th May of 2022. And it was addressing some of the gaps that were in the Act, because there are certain articles that we could not implement because they needed some prescription, especially in the labeling, in interaction of health workers with the manufacturers. So the regulations give guidance on that. And it's good that we all familiarize with the regulations so that we are not caught on the wrong side of the law, because ignorance of the law is no excuse. So that's the scope. Dr. Makeba mentioned about the national implementation of International Code Status Report. You can see for Kenya in 2022, we were moderately aligned with the code at 69%, but after passing the regulations, we were able to improve to 82, which is significantly aligned. And I know for those who have been in the market and seen the infant formula in the market, they changed the labeling with a very clear warning in red, which actually emphasizes that breastfeeding is the best, breast milk is the best, and the disadvantages of introducing your baby to infant formula. So how can you help the pediatrician? You know, you are the trusted advisors, yeah? Mothers trust you. So you can use that trust to promote breastfeeding and be able also to bring about the scope of the act. You also have a crucial role in advocating for breastfeeding as the optimal breastfeeding method. Prof talked about early intervention, yeah? Because you are the first contact, you can be able to early identify children who have problems, of mothers who have challenges in breastfeeding, and support them. So in conclusion, I want just to emphasize that breastfeeding has numerous benefits for both infants and mothers, and that we have a law, the Breast Milk Substitute Act, that all of us should comply and also help in terms of disseminating the content of that act. And it is clear that it only provides for marketing, appropriate marketing and distribution of breast milk substitute. It does not prohibit, but more so focuses or emphasizes the importance of breastfeeding and hence its promotion, and that violation of the act can have serious breastfeeding rates, consequence for breastfeeding rates, infant health outcomes, and socio-economic development. So those are key resources that you can be able to visit after the conference. And in conclusion, I'm saying together we can protect, support, and promote breastfeeding as a cornerstone of optimal infant nutrition and health, and make a difference in the lives of mothers and babies. See, we can do that. But we have to work together. This baby is ours, yeah? The pediatrician, the mother, the nutritionist, and health workers. So let's see how we can do in order to make a difference in terms of their health and nutrition. Thank you very much.